All right, so today we are diving headfirst into this whole FinOps thing. We all know cloud can be a total game changer, but those costs, man, they can really creep up on you if you're not careful, right? So that's why we've dug through all the research, all those reports to give you the ultimate cheat sheet for making FinOps like your secret weapon for cloud cost domination. And to help us navigate this whole financial maze, we've got a true FinOps guru with us today, not just a cost-cutting expert, but someone who really understands how to make sure your cloud spending is actually moving the needle for your business. So I guess before we get too far ahead of ourselves here, let's talk about this whole FinOps thing. It's a little jargony, right? Like imagine going to a restaurant, drooling over this amazing menu, but then there are no prices listed. Maybe you end up having this incredible meal, but then bam, the bill arrives. And it's like a five-figure heart attack. It's kind of like that with cloud spending if you don't have FinOps, right?
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, FinOps is all about making sure you are getting the absolute most bang for your cloud buck. Just like you want, a delicious and satisfying meal for a reasonable price.
Yeah.
At our hypothetical restaurant here.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It's not just about the finance folks, right? It's not about them huddled in a room, crunching numbers all day. FinOps is about getting everyone on the same page. Your tech team, your business strategist, everyone needs a seat at the table.
It's like a multidisciplinary task force, totally dedicated to making sure your cloud investments are working for you, not the other way around. Which makes sense, especially now when it seems like everyone and their dog is migrating to the cloud. But we don't always hear about the financial surprises that can come along with that migration.
Yeah, it's true. The cloud is amazing, don't get me wrong. Like, lets you scale your business faster than ever before. But that flexibility, it can also make costs, well, a little unpredictable if you're not careful. Think of it like building a car, right? You can keep adding all these amazing features and upgrades, but each one is going to add to the bottom line. That's where FinOps comes in. It gives you the tools and the insights you need to stay in control of those costs so you can scale with confidence, knowing you're not going to be hit with a surprise bill that'll make your eyes water.
So it's not just about saving a few bucks here and there. It's about having that clear view of your cloud spending, making sure everyone is on the same page, and ultimately making sure your cloud is actually helping you achieve those big business goals.
Which leads me to my next question. Forgive me if I'm being a little blunt here, but does FinOps actually save companies real money? Or is it just hype? Oh, it is definitely not hype. We're talking about companies seeing an average of 20–30% reductions in their cloud costs. And get this, there was this research from the FinOps Foundation. They found that one large company, and I mean large, they saved a whopping $10 million per year just by finding and switching off cloud resources they weren't even using. Imagine what you could do with an extra $10 million in your budget.
10 million. Okay, you've got my attention. So it's less about pinching pennies and more about making these smart strategic decisions with your cloud resources. But for those of us just starting out, where do we even begin? This all sounds a little overwhelming.
Don't worry. It's definitely a journey, not a race. The first and honestly probably the most important step is changing the mindset within your company. You've got to get everyone on board with this idea that smart cloud spending, it's crucial for the developers to your CEO. Everyone needs to understand how their decisions impact the bottom line, especially when it comes to the cloud.
Okay, so it's like laying the foundation. For this culture of cloud cost awareness, everyone working together towards a common goal, which, let's be honest, can sometimes feel like herding cats, right?
It can be. It can be a little like herding cats sometimes, you're right. But once you've got that cultural shift, you can really start focusing on data visibility. Because here's the thing, you can't manage what you can't see.
Right. Data visibility, yeah. It's like shining a spotlight on those cloud expenses so you can actually see where the money's going.
Exactly. And the good news is there are some really powerful tools out there to help you do just that. Tools that can track your spending, like down to the penny. They can pinpoint those areas where you're overspending and even automate some of those tasks to really, optimize your usage in real time.
Okay, so we've got the right mindset, we've got the data, we've got the tools. What's next? How do we go from FinOps 0 to hero here?
Well, once you've got those basics down, you can start thinking about leveling up your game. Imagine this. All those manual tasks that you're doing, like, checking your cloud bills for errors or manually adjusting resources. You can actually automate a lot of that stuff, which frees up your team to focus on the bigger picture, the strategic initiatives that really move the needle for your business.
Less time crunching numbers. More time strategizing. I like the sound of that. But with all these amazing FinOps tools popping up left and right, it seems like things could get, well, a little crowded. How do we keep everything running smoothly without, driving ourselves crazy in the process.
Yeah, that's where seamless integration comes in. You don't want your FinOps tools to be these, like, isolated islands.
Right. It's about integrating them with your other systems, your financial software, your development pipeline, your cloud platforms. Everything needs to be talking to each other.
No more data silos,
Yeah.
causing confusion and headaches. Exactly. And of course, in the ever-evolving world of FinOps, you've always got to be learning, always evolving your strategies. The FinOps Foundation is a fantastic resource for this. I mean, they've got tons of information on best practices, emerging trends, all sorts of goodies.
Keeping those FinOps skills sharp. I like it. But let's be real for a second. All of this sounds incredible in theory, but we all know there are always going to be some speed bumps. On the road to FinOps Nirvana, what are some of the biggest challenges that people run into?
You're absolutely right. It's not always going to be a walk in the park. One of the biggest hurdles I see is getting everyone on board with the FinOps mindset. Change can be tough, and you might have some folks who are a little resistant to doing things differently, and I get it. The key here is to really communicate clearly. Show them how FinOps benefits, not just the company as a whole, but them personally as well.
So it's about highlighting the what's in it for me.
Exactly. Another challenge is data quality. You can have the most sophisticated FinOps tools in the world, but if the data you are feeding them is inaccurate or incomplete, well, your insights are going to be way off. Garbage in, garbage out, right?
Data hygiene is key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's the challenge of tool overload.
Yeah.
There are so many amazing FinOps tools out there these days. It can be hard to even know where to start.
Yeah.
It's easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah, definitely.
My advice, start simple. Maybe begin with some of the native tools that your cloud provider offers. And then once you've had the hang of things, you can start exploring some of the more, specialized options.
Don't try to boil the ocean all at once.
Exactly. And finally, we've got the big one, human resistance to change. Some people are just naturally wired to shy away from new things, new processes, new technologies. It's natural. The best way to tackle this, I find, is through a combination of support and training. Make sure your team understands how to use the tools, why these changes are happening, and how it'll ultimately make their jobs easier. In the long run,
So, clear communication. A little hand-holding can go a long way. Now let's put on our futurology hats for a second. AI is everywhere these days. It's like inescapable. How is it shaping the world of FinOps?
that's a great question. AI is already starting to make a huge impact in FinOps, and it's only going to get bigger and better from here. Imagine AI algorithms that can detect unusual spending patterns before you even know they're happening.
It's like having a sixth sense for saving money.
Exactly. And that's not all. We're also seeing AI being used to predict future cloud costs with mind-blowing accuracy. This is going to revolutionize the way companies budget for their cloud services.
It's like having a crystal ball for your cloud spending. Incredible. But with all this talk about AI, let's not forget about another important issue, sustainability. Can FinOps actually help companies be more eco-friendly?
Absolutely. It's a connection that a lot of people don't immediately make, but it's incredibly important. Every time you spin up a cloud resource, it uses energy. And if those resources are just sitting there idle, well, that's wasted energy, right? FinOps helps you optimize your cloud usage, so you're only using what you actually need, which in turn shrinks your carbon footprint.
So being smart about your cloud spending means you're being smart about the planet too. Now, we've talked a lot about FinOps in the context of a single cloud provider, but what about companies that use multiple cloud providers? Is FinOps even possible in that kind of setup?
It's not just possible, it's absolutely essential in multi-cloud environments. Think about it. You're juggling multiple billing systems, different pricing models, potentially even different sets of FinOps tools. It can quickly turn into a logistical nightmare if you don't have a solid FinOps strategy in place.
It sounds like you need a PhD in cloud economics just to keep up.
It can feel like that sometimes, but that's where FinOps really shines. It gives you that single, unified framework for managing costs across all of your different cloud providers.
So instead of drowning in a sea of cloud bills, you can actually get a clear, holistic view of your spending.
Exactly. And that's incredibly powerful.
I bet. Now, let's talk about the future of cloud technology for a second. We've got serverless computing, edge computing, and who knows what's next, right? How does FinOps adapt to these rapidly evolving technologies?
That's a great question. It's true that these new technologies, they bring their own unique challenges when it comes to cost management. But the beauty of FinOps is that it's not about any one specific technology. It's about the principles.
The fundamentals, right? Those core concepts that apply no matter what the tech landscape looks like.
Exactly. So while you might need to tweak your approach a little bit, depending on whether you are dealing with serverless
Yeah.
or edge computing
Yeah.
or whatever comes next, the core principles of FinOps, they remain incredibly relevant.
So FinOps is like that trusty sidekick that's always got your back, helping you navigate the wild world of cloud costs.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, I'm loving this FinOps journey so far. But before we get to our final destination, I've got to ask about something you mentioned earlier, this whole idea of a FinOps maturity curve. You mentioned this whole FinOps maturity curve earlier. It sounds like there's like a whole journey that companies go through, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like climbing a mountain. You know, you don't just teleport to the top. Most companies start out in what we call the crawl phase. They're really just trying to get a handle on their cloud spending, dealing with those unexpected bills, maybe doing a bit of firefighting here and there.
So they're just dipping their toes into the FinOps waters.
Exactly. But as they start tracking their costs more effectively, maybe implementing some basic FinOps practices, they move into the walk phase. They're starting to analyze their spending, identify opportunities for optimization, and really just get a better grasp on things.
Finding their FinOps leg.
Exactly. And then comes the run phase, where things really start to click. They've got solid FinOps practices in place. They're using dedicated tools, and they've developed a really solid understanding of their cloud spending patterns.
They're off to the races.
Exactly. But it doesn't end there. Next, you've got the fly phase. At this level, FinOps is practically in their DNA. They've got strong governance, automation is humming along, and they're constantly looking for ways to, fine-tune their cloud usage even further.
They have gone from crawling to flying in the world of FinOps.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's impressive. And then finally, you've got the pinnacle, the soar phase. These companies, they're using FinOps as a strategic weapon. They're leveraging their cloud investments to drive innovation and gain a real competitive edge.
They've reached the summit of FinOps mastery.
Exactly. They don't just see cloud costs as an expense anymore. They see it as a strategic investment in their future.
So it's about flipping the script, going from how do we spend less to how do we spend smarter to really crush our business goals.
You nailed it. And the best part is, you don't have to do it all at once. You can start small, build momentum, and gradually level up your FinOps game over time.
Small steps, big FinOps wins.
I love it. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. We've covered so much ground, from really demystifying what FinOps is to taking a peek into the future of FinOps. As we wrap things up here, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with today?
If you remember nothing else from this conversation, remember this. FinOps, it's not just about cutting costs. It's about making sure your cloud investments are perfectly aligned with their business goals. It's about visibility, accountability, optimization, and collaboration. It's about making your cloud work harder and smarter for you.
Beautifully said. It's not about being perfect, right? It's about embracing this continuous journey of learning and improvement. So as you continue on your own FinOps adventure out there, remember, you got this. Start small, stay curious, and never stop optimizing.